Hello, I'm Boniface Kituva, a graduate teacher from Kenya, specialized in teaching English and literature. I graduated on 19th October 2007 with a Bachelor of Education Arts degree from Moi University, which is in Eldoret, Kenya. I have 16 years teaching experience. During this time, I have taught in both junior secondary school, which is the equivalent of middle school in the USA, and I have also taught in high school. Immediately after my graduation, I got an opportunity to teach English for 3.5 years in middle school, after which I moved to high school where I have been teaching until now. I am currently the head of languages department in my school, and here is my letter of appointment to that responsibility. Under my leadership, my school has posted a good mean grade in English year in, year out. My classes have also emerged the best in performance, and I have been awarded various certificates in recognition of my efforts. And here are just some of them. I have interests in theater and performance. My hobbies are adventure, nature walks, reading fiction, and spending quality time with my family. I am applying to teach English and literature. My motivation to teach English was inspired by my teacher of English when I joined high school. Having been brought up from a rural setting, my English always had mother tongue interference when I spoke. Then in high school, I was taught by this teacher, one Miss Musau, who was so articulate and fluent. Actually, one could mistake her for an English native speaker. She even had an accent, or so I thought. I developed a great admiration for her and her subject, and gradually my spoken and written English improved. She became my role model, and later on, when I decided to pursue a career in teaching, I chose to specialize in English and literature. Thanks to her for shaping my career. In addition, my love for literature, which is my second subject, was kindled by my grandmother, who was such a good storyteller. She would gather all our grandchildren every day after the evening meal in our kitchen and narrate to us stories that at times left our ribs cracking from laughter. Other times we could not help but weep from the happenings in our magical narrations. I train students in drama and performance, coach badminton, and supervise debating sessions in my school. I have taught English for 3.5 years in junior school, which, as I said earlier, is the equivalent of middle school in the United States, to students aged between 10 to 14 years. I have also taught English and literature in high school to students aged between 14 to 19 years for the last 12.5 years. I begin my preparation to teach by identifying the topic and the subtopic I want to teach during a particular period. After this, I normally write a lesson plan which guides my teaching throughout the lesson. In my lesson plan, I first capture the lesson objective. This is a clear statement of what the learners should be able to do by the end of the lesson or learn. I also capture the materials I need to achieve my objective. These may include course books, charts, sample letters, sample memos, emails, among others. Materials always vary depending on what I'm teaching. My lesson plan includes an introduction of the lesson. I always strive to make the introduction captivating to arouse my learners' interest in the lesson. It can be a recap of what was learned during the previous lesson, then link it to the current topic. I also capture the new concepts and skills in the lesson plan that I would teach during that lesson. In the lesson plan, I also capture the specific activities that students are going to be engaged in at different stages of the lesson. I also capture the tasks I would assign to the students to do individually during the lesson. As the students do the task, I normally go around from one student to another, checking if they are actually doing the right thing. After this, I conclude the lesson by summarizing the key points and give them home assignment. I later on reflect on the lesson to see if there are any areas I need to improve on. I commonly use peer teaching in my classroom. This involves students teaching each other. My students love it since it gives them an opportunity to practice what they have learned and shine. It enhances content retention since to teach is to learn twice. Peer teaching also improves communication skills and boosts students' self confidence. In the course of my career, I have learned that some students grasp content faster than others. This I assign the role of peer teachers. This method of teaching is very effective since it helps both the peer educator and the students being taught. The peer educator benefits by refining their knowledge. The other students benefit from learning from their peer and are usually more receptive. This enhances better understanding. I also use peer teaching in assessment. For instance, when I give a task in class or homework, once in a while I encourage students to exchange their exercise books and check each other's work and give feedback to one another. This enables them to see how other students have approached the same task. This helps widen their thinking. The other teaching strategy I often employ in teaching is collaborative learning. This entails assigning activities to groups or pairs of students. The students in a group may work on separate tasks, contributing to a common overall outcome, or work together on a shared task. An example of a shared task would be, for instance, when teaching literary appreciation in a poem, I give a copy of a poem to each group and instruct them to identify and illustrate all the stylistic devices they can in a poem. I give a copy of a poem to each group and instruct them to identify and illustrate all the stylistic devices they can identify in the poem. On the other hand, an example of separate tasks contributing to a common overall outcome would be, for instance, when analyzing a literary text. I assign to one of the groups roles of identifying and illustrating themes, to another character and characterization, and yet to another language and style, etc. And later on, all the groups making their presentations in class. Other collaborative tasks I usually engage my students in are sorting, for example, parts of speech from a given list and completing word puzzles. My role in collaborative teaching is to ensure that each student participates and that no single learner remains a passive listener. In my view, the activities learners will be engaged in class would be determined by the topic of the day. But generally, they would range from group discussions, group presentations, role playing, writing down answers to questions posed by the teacher, or giving oral responses, writing down a task being dictated by the teacher, all written on the board, peer teaching, silent reading of passages or storybooks, reading a passage aloud as the rest follow or listen, among others. I normally measure on formative assessment. This is assessment conducted during the learning process, which is aimed at modifying teaching and learning outcomes. It includes oral assessment, short quizzes which students hand over as they leave class, homework, observing students' performance in class, asking for a yes or no response on whether the students have understood or not, among other ways. Then I also use summative assessment. Normally, I give students an exam twice a term, one mid-term and the second at the end of the term. Both are then averaged to prepare the students' termly academic reports. The reports for the three terms are then averaged at the end of the year to give the students the academic reports for the whole year. I often use a laptop and a projector to project selected content in class as I deem necessary. These I prepare myself mostly in PowerPoint. I also project selected videos in class to enhance my teaching. This is mostly during literature lessons and also to teach pronunciation. My students normally enjoy the lessons where technology is incorporated. About my experience with a smartboard, I honestly do not have much of it. The closest I have come to a smartboard was during a capacity building seminar I had attended, where one had been mounted in the conference room and the facilitators used it during their presentations. It was awesome. Should I be given the opportunity to learn to use a smartboard, I would be glad and readily embrace it. I am a person who is open to learning new experiences, especially those that challenge me and are geared towards making me a better teacher and more relevant in the contemporary time. Actually, I have already started learning how to use a smartboard from YouTube. First, I would look into their direction and have an eye contact with them so that they would know I'm aware of their misconduct. If they continue, I would write a note directing them to stop their destructive behavior, and slowly, as I continue with the lesson, I would move to their desk and stick the note on it. If they still persist, I would request to see the student outside the classroom and address the issue one on one. If this still fails, I would raise the issue with the relevant authority as laid down by the school administration. I vividly remember this day when I was teaching in a Form 1 class. The Form 1s had just been admitted in the school. Then all of a sudden, a student collapsed in the middle of the lesson. The rest of the students, shocked by the incident, freaked and rushed out of the class, almost causing a stampede. I quickly moved to where the student lay, frothing from the mouth. I immediately called the school nurse, who, without wasting time, came, examined the student, and quickly called the driver of the school van and rushed the student to a nearby hospital. Afterwards, I called the students back to class, and after reassuring them that the situation was under control, they settled and we continued with the lesson, though some of them took time to fully recover from the incident. After my graduation, the first job I got was teaching in junior school, which, as I had mentioned earlier, is the equivalent of middle school in the USA. In this school, no technology at all was incorporated in teaching. Then I moved to teach in a high school where technologically the school was a bit advanced. Classrooms had projection screens, and laptops and projectors were availed for use by teachers. This initially posed a challenge to me since I could not even connect a laptop to a projector. This meant I could not project anything during my lessons. But since I am a proactive person in nature and open to learning, I sought assistance from my colleague teachers, and within no time, I was able to connect a laptop to a projector and project anything that I wanted during my lessons without difficulties. Thank you very much for listening to me. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Bye for now.